This is the Louie Tee Network.
I'm ready for some football. I don't know about you. Who else could it be but your man Lou? Yeah.
Overtime! So we head to overtime.
Who else could it be but me, your man, Louie Tee? Welcome to Monday Night Football Overtime. Wow. What a game to wrap up week number 1 in the National Football League. Of course, I am your set man, Louie Tee, here to recap the action in what was a magnificent Monday Night Football doubleheader. A lot of people probably checked out on us, didn't make it all the way through. Hey, I understand you got work tomorrow, as do I, but I just love football so much. They got me up until 1:30 in the morning watching this game, and it almost went to overtime. Literally, we are on the overtime show. Game almost went to overtime. Wow. Phillip Rivers and that never say never attitude, that competitive spirit almost brought this team back and sent this game to overtime. It seems like it's the same story with this Chargers team. Almost doesn't count, however, as a wise woman once told me. And this Chargers team always seems to be close, but just can't get over the hump. And it happened to them again tonight. Some great strategy late in the football game. Some bad clock management, if you ask me, by the Chargers. We'll discuss all of those things and then some in this breakdown. What a contest, however, as the Denver Broncos hold off a late rally by Phillip Rivers and the fighting Los Angeles Chargers 24-21 in the Mile High City. So, before we get into this breakdown, I thank you for joining me on Monday Night Football Overtime. It's late, but as I always tell you, it's still great, even late. And so, let's have ourselves a show, shall we? I thank each and every single one of you for hanging in tough with me. If you're on the West Coast, man, this is great timing for you. It's probably right around 10:30, 11:30, depending on where you are. So this is nothing for you. For us East Coasters, boy, it's pretty late. But in any event, if you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie Tee Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game. Want you to do the same by simply hitting that subscribe button and becoming a member of the Louie Tee Network family. Also, I am on Twitter. @InTheLabRoom is the Twitter handle. Give me a follow there. I'm also on Instagram. It's with the Z _ me, Louie Tee, on IG. So give me a follow there. Also on Facebook. In the Lab Room is the Facebook page. Give me the thumbs up on Facebook there. So let's get into this breakdown. What a fabulous contest we had tonight in Denver. If you are out there watching this video and you want to have your voice heard live on the air, use the hashtag #LouieTLive to have your comment read on the air after I give my breakdown of the action tonight. We'll start with the winners in this game. My gosh, the Denver Broncos got out to a 24-7 lead behind that ferocious defense. But more importantly, I think a lot of us, we expect this Broncos defense to be good. So let's go ahead and talk about the Broncos offense first, because a lot of question marks as to what they were going to be. I was anxious. I told you last night on Sunday Night Football Overtime, because this same Broncos team will be taking on the Dallas Cowboys next week. I'm anxious to see Trevor Siemian. I'm a Trevor Siemian fan. I have been since his days at Northwestern. If you go back and watch my draft wrap-up of Trevor Siemian, I told you I thought that he had the goods to be an NFL starting quarterback. At worst, a quality backup in this league. He's proven me right. He looks the part of an NFL starting quarterback. I love his mobility. I love his poise in the pocket. Sometimes he can get a little antsy. As you saw late in the game, he showed the inexperience, taking a couple of critical sacks at the wrong time. Even though he took those sacks, you expect your kicker at Mile High to be able to bang home a 50-yard field goal. He got the kibosh from the commentators who said, Brandon McManus, the highest field goal percentage kicking in Denver Broncos history. Thanks for that one. Of course, he then promptly missed on cue from 50 yards out, which is absolutely nothing. Rex Ryan, this is basically a chip shot here in the Mile High. Absolutely it is. That's why he's going to miss now. Thanks, guys. You both did your jobs very well. And of course, he pushed the kick right and left the door slightly ajar for Phillip Rivers and the Los Angeles Chargers. But leading up to that point, he had been outstanding, had made some mistakes that gave the opportunity to the Chargers to stay in the game. Almost made a crucial mistake early. The Chargers had an opportunity to have a pick six. I thought that Casey Hayward dropped an opportunity in the first quarter to really set the tone for this game. And I think he was thinking six before he was thinking pick. And you got to get the pick first before you can add the six at the end. And so that was an opportunity to make a play. If you watch Simeon, boy, does he live dangerously. I can count a number of passes where I can tell you he's got a gunslinger mentality. There are a number of passes that got in there that easily could have been tipped, could have been picked. Where you're like, man, if that defender was there a split second earlier, there was a pass down in the red zone. I want to say it was to Hireman, the tight end, and he's sitting down on a curl literally 5 yards away from the end zone, and the linebacker, Jatavis Brown, is right there, and he just reacts slightly late. And he dives and he just misses the football, and they stop Hireman around the 1 or the 2 yard line. There are a number of plays like that in this game. There was another one to one of his receivers earlier in the game where he barely threaded the needle, where you're like, man, this guy is living dangerously. Even the seam route late to Virgil Green, and again, this is what good quarterbacks in this league do. If I see your numbers as a defender trailing on a play, that means my guy is open on the seam ball. He threw a couple of those where I'm like, man, that is a risky throw. One even got deflected early in the game. I want to say either first quarter, early second quarter, gets deflected, and it still is caught by Jeff Hireman over the middle of the field. Later in the game, the defender doesn't get a hand on it, but somehow gets to Virgil Green, who plucks it out of the air and runs to try to set up a field goal attempt that was missed, that we talked about previously. But I thought he did a magnificent job of getting in and out of the pocket, using his legs to extend plays, using his legs to pick up first downs and yardage when need be. I love his mobility. I love that he's not afraid to use his legs when he has to, and also to use those legs to create. He can throw on the run. His arm is strong enough. There's a lot of things I like about Trevor Siemian. I liked all of these things about him last year. Love the fact that he's a team captain and they look at him as a leader on his football team. I've always been a Trevor Siemian supporter, and I think he's doing a great job. And this was a game that I thought they needed to find a way to win, and they got it done. It was not pretty. The execution late was not great. He did throw the interception in the fourth quarter that kind of started the rally. And really, if you want to be honest, the rally started when that Chargers defense was able to muster up the strength to get that goal line stand and force the field goal in the waning moments of the third quarter. That kind of turned the momentum a little bit, but even still, they needed some kind of boost of adrenaline, and that interception that they were able to get off of Siemian really gave them the break that they needed. Phillip Rivers then went to work, and they forced another turnover, this time a fumble. They went and got right back in the end zone, did Rivers. And so I thought Siemian was outstanding in this game. Sans for the one interception. He did, like I said, he does live dangerously, but that's, I think, his mentality as a quarterback is I can fit it in there. My arm is strong enough. I can get it done. And I don't have a problem with that until you make that mistake. And so the one interception, I mean, it's as fluky an interception as you will find. Literally, the ball kicks off of the Bronco receiver up into the air and then picked off by a Charger defender. So, I mean, you can't really beat him up for that one too much. What a game this was. As you go to C.J. Anderson in the run game, look, when C.J. Anderson's healthy, this is what you get. A guy that is highly productive at the running back position. You love what he brings to the table. There's an element of toughness and yards after contact that you know comes with a C.J. Anderson carry. And I think they missed that when he hasn't been in the lineup, and he dealt with some injuries over the last couple of years, especially last season. And they missed him when he was not in the lineup. Good to see Jamal Charles out on the football field, even in limited touches and reps. It was good to see him out on the field back in a uniform, even though it's not a Chiefs uniform. Just good to see him back on the football field. You hate to see a guy like him in his career the way that it did in Kansas City. So they've got some stuff out there in Denver. Benny Fowler was huge in this game. 2 touchdown grabs for Benny Fowler. The other touchdown for the Broncos on a Simeon run. Again, he juked the draws off of linebacker, defensive end, Joey Bosa on that particular play. Bosa really trying to play both the fullback slash tight end on that particular play that was going out to the flats, and still trying to outflank the quarterback, Simeon. Simeon then stops on a dime, cuts in. Bosa cannot, and it results in a walk-in touchdown for Simeon. So I just thought that this entire game for the Broncos offensively was a nice start to the season for them under their new head coach. You see all of the makings of a team that can compete in this AFC West division, but they're going to have to stay healthy, one, and they're going to have to be consistent on the offensive side of football. You know what this defense is, and I segue there perfectly into this defense. This defense, for 3.5 quarters, was doing what this defense does. They literally had this game on ice until the turnovers started to happen, which put them in some compromising situations. And then Phillip Rivers just got hot on that Broncos defense. And you know how it is in just sports in general, not just football, sports in general, how it happens with teams and momentum. And when Uncle Mo's on your sidelines, feet up, chips and drink in hand, it's so tough to get him off of the sidelines. And he hit that Chargers sideline, and he got comfortable, and the game turned, it seemed like, on a dime. And that defense that was once dominant in this game, getting after Phillip Rivers, making him uncomfortable, was now on their heels. I thought that they gave it up on the ground, though. They ran the football effectively, did the Chargers, against this Broncos defense, something that they struggled with a season ago. They had their moments where guys like Derek Wolfe and a guy that I really like, and Adam Gotsis out of Georgia Tech, who was coming off the injury, which is why he ended up in Denver. A lot of people beat the Broncos up for spending the 3rd-round pick on him. It might have even been a late 2nd-round pick on him when they did because of the injury. But this is a guy that is very talented. It was really foreign to football, was still learning the game, very raw. He's got some talent. I saw him flash tonight. So I think they're going to get better on the interior of that line. But I thought they gave up some yards to Melvin Ingram III in this game on the ground. They did get better as the game wore on, and then as the lead got bigger, the Chargers kind of abandoned the run a little bit more and threw the ball a little bit more in this ball game. And so I think that's something that, if there's one criticism of them in this game, is that they need to be better against the run, because I thought Melvin Gordon did have a really solid performance on the ground early in this game, especially against this Broncos defense. But the no-fly zone did what it is they do. They get after the quarterback with Von Miller and Shaquille Barrett and the likes, and then they brought pressure. They did blitz in this game, and they were effective in doing that as well. There were some opportunities for some plays to be made. One especially comes to mind in the first half where they came with an all-out blitz. Rivers didn't see it until the last second, and the running back releases into the flats, and he is wide open. I'm talking about 25, 30 yards of space and opportunity in green grass in front of him, and Phillip Rivers just did not see him until the very last moment. Brandon Oliver might have even scored on that play had Rivers just simply gotten the ball out into the flats in a manner in which he could catch it. Instead, he skipped it to him, and they had to punt. So there were opportunities for the Chargers to do some things when this Broncos defense sold out and gave up some opportunities. But nonetheless, they made plays in this game. They picked Phillip Rivers off. A great play by Roby. They were looking for a flag. No flag came. I thought it was a great play by Roby to undercut the route, dive, and pick it off. And so they were creating turnovers and opportunities for this Broncos offense to put points on the board, and that they did. And so I was really impressed with what I saw out of this defense. Even though they're missing some pieces along that defense, even though DeMarcus Ware retires, even though they've lost some pieces. Shane Ray's not ready to go yet. They still are effective, and they still have the ability to wreck your game plan by getting after the quarterback and making plays on the football. They did get beat as the momentum turned in this game in the secondary. They give up the deep ball to Travis Benjamin to cut the game to 3 within 3 at 24-21. They give up the Keenan Allen touchdown, which at the time made it a 10-point deficit at 24-14. So they did give it up on the comeback trail, but again, they held their own for the majority of this game. And when it got tight, when the Chargers absolutely had to have it, they buckled down. They did give up the pass interference to put the Chargers essentially in field goal range. I didn't think they protected the sidelines good enough in that last sequence of events. They did allow the Chargers to get out of bounds, but nonetheless, they made it tough on them, forced them to kick a 50-yard field goal. It went in the first time, it was blocked the second time, and that's how they were able to escape with the 24-21 victory. Let's move on to the Chargers side of things, because this seems like a broken record. This is a team that just seems to always be on the short end of good luck and fortune, whether we're talking injuries or we're talking about close, contested, tightly contested ball games, that is. This Chargers team just never seems to be on the right end of the stick. And again, they fall short in their comeback attempt in this football game. I thought they got off to a really good start, did the Chargers offensively in this game. Even though they had no points to show for it, I thought they were having consistency running the football. I thought Phillip Rivers was trying to get back into sync with the likes of guys like Keenan Allen. You didn't see OG85 on the field as much in terms of a viable option to get the football, but you could tell early on they wanted to get Allen involved, and he dropped one early. Then he came back and made a couple of catches, and I think he kind of settled in afterwards. Did have the boneheaded penalty, the taunting penalty after his touchdown in the second half, but I thought it was a nice little showing by Keenan Allen. Hopefully he can stay healthy. We know his injury history is extensive. Hopefully he's able to stay healthy, but I thought the story of the game early on offensively was the ability of Melvin Gordon to just be an all-purpose back. They talked about his usage rate and how it was very high last year, only second to Le'Veon Bell in the league. And early on in the game, it looked like it was going to continue. They were running the football on the 10 of the 16 first snaps. He touched the football on 10 of those first 16 snaps, whether it was in the running capacity or receiving out of the backfield. The first touchdown of the game, a great job of him of catching the football, turning up the field, and then leaping over the safety for the Denver Broncos into the end zone for a touchdown. So I thought he did some really good things early on in the game. I thought he was the difference maker early. But as the game wore on, they became less and less efficient offensively, and they didn't get the spark they were looking for until the turnovers. Really, like I said, I think the spark started with the stop on the Broncos' late third quarter possession, where they were able to keep them out of the end zone and force them to kick a field goal to make it 24-7. And then you get the turnovers in the fourth quarter, the rally by Phillip Rivers, which is what he does best to me. When his team is down, and it's too often, and that's one of my gripes with this football team, is that too often they are down big or just down in general, and Phillip Rivers has to put the team on his back and try to rally them back for a come-from-behind victory, or at least a tie as they were looking for tonight, and they fall short a bunch of times. You just like to see these guys either be in closer proximity to their opponent so that Phillip Rivers doesn't have to throw the football, 20-some-odd times in the fourth quarter to try to will his team back to a victory, or you'd like to see them actually be ahead in games, which that was the case last year, and they blew a ton of leads. So this team just can't seem to win, period. Whether they're ahead like they were last year and blew a bunch of leads, or they're behind and can't fully complete the comeback like they did in this game. And so it's unfortunate, but the offense, you see the wheels turning there. They've got enough talent to make it go. Williams is out there. You got a healthy Keenan Allen for now. Gordon out of the backfield. Hunter Henry. OG85 still available. Travis Benjamin. There's enough weaponry around Phillip Rivers for him to be able to get the job done. Now it's about execution. It's about consistency, which they lacked in this game. I thought they started out well early, and then in the middle portion of this game, they kind of waned. No points in the first quarter, no points in the third quarter, and then the explosion in the fourth quarter of 14 unanswered points to cut this deficit down to 3 and have a chance to try to send it to overtime late. So you'd just like to see more consistency out of this football team throughout the entire game. But I thought they acquitted themselves well late in this game, giving themselves a chance late in this ball game on the offensive side of the football. Defensively, they had moments, much like the offense, inconsistent in this football game, but they had moments. Melvin Ingram literally took over the game late. His ability to get after the quarterback. Menelik Watson, and I do need to mention this for the Denver Broncos. Offensively, that offensive line still has issues. Menelik Watson shouldn't be starting for any team at right tackle. The Raiders figured that out. A, he couldn't stay healthy. B, he wasn't very good. The Broncos gave him an opportunity because he didn't play a ton in Oakland because of injuries, and he's just not ready. Either he's not ready or he's not good. But Melvin Ingram abused him on that right side, and it showed late in that game. 2 straight sacks by Ingram, including a big sack that pushed them to that 50-yard field goal range territory on the second sack, and McManus ended up missing the field goal late to give the Chargers a chance to still tie this game with a field goal on that final possession. So Ingram was dominant at times. Bosa had some flashes in this game. Casey Hayward, like I said earlier, gotta have it. I mean, for this guy to lead the NFL in interceptions last year, he had an opportunity to really make an early statement in this game with a pick six. I don't know if he would have made it to the end zone. C.J. Anderson was right there, but I'd like to think he could pull away from C.J. Anderson if he would have caught that cleanly and got into the end zone. Got to make that play. You want to win on the road. You want to win in the division, on the road, on prime time. You got to make those kind of plays. You can't leave those plays on the field. You got to make those plays. That was a great opportunity to get off to a fast start in this game, and he didn't make the play. There were opportunities. I thought they were physical. They were hitting. They were around the football. They were a very aggressive group early in this football game. But then, like I said, as the game wore on, the Broncos were able to make some plays. I thought C.J. Anderson was able to run on this defense. They opened up some holes. He was able to do some damage. Simeon was able to do damage with his legs as well, able to extend plays. They lost track of Benny Fowler a couple of times in the end zone for his 2 touchdowns. All in all, though, I think this is a unit that, again, we mentioned this with the Chargers on just about every show that I do. Anybody that's a football fan, any Chargers fans out there will echo the same sentiments. They just got to stay healthy on the defensive side of the football. They've got so much talent. Verrett. And I'm not a Trey Boston fan. I even like Trey Boston out there tonight. I thought he was physical. He was around the football. They did some good things. I love Jatavis Brown and what he brings to the table. You're missing Perryman. He's already down with an injury. Don't know exactly when he'll be back. But, you got Mebane down there, and you're looking for him to stop the run a little bit better as a group. And you brought him in to do exactly that. And you kind of struggled in that aspect tonight. But I think you'll be better as the season progresses. But there's massive amounts of talent defensively for this football team. And they made plays in the second half, primarily the fourth quarter and really the late stages of the third with that goal line stand, essentially to keep the game within reach. And then they made the plays to force turnovers. This is an opportunistic defense right now. And I think they have a shot, if they can stay healthy, to really make some noise, not only in the AFC West division, but in the AFC conference as a whole. This is a dangerous team. We've always said that. I said last year, every week, as their record got worse and worse, because they were always hovering around 500 last year. They can never quite make it to 500. At one point, I believe they were like 2-4, then they were 3-5, then they were 4-5, then they were 4-6. And then I think they might have gotten a 5-6, and then the wheels fell off of the season or whatever the case may be. I kept saying every year, this is the best 4-6 team you've ever seen. This is the best 3-5 team you've ever seen. This is the best 5-8 team you've ever seen. It's the best 5-9 team you've ever seen. They've got a chance to be dangerous this season. It all revolves around health on both sides of the football. I didn't like the clock management late in this football game. I thought that this was one of those situations where a young head coach was sort of in over his head, didn't really know how to manage the clock late, let some valuable seconds bleed off the clock, and then decided to call a timeout. I thought it was a great job by the Broncos to ice the kicker. You know, me being a Redskins fan, I saw how that worked last season when our kicker over in London made the first kick. They iced him. He goes out, kicks the second one, and misses. Same instance here, a little bit different of a result, however, or the same result, but a little bit a different way of reaching that result. This time it was blocked the second time around after he made it the first time. So a great strategy by the Broncos to use that timeout to force them to kick it again. And they had a rookie kicker, and I thought he looked good in that mile-high air, kicking the football. And I think that one would have been good as well had it gotten up, but Vance Joseph using that timeout to really make it tough on them, and then they were able to get some penetration, block the kick, and get the victory. But Chargers hung tough. This is what they do. They're a scary team, and if they can stay healthy, I could see them being a team to reckon with in the AFC conference. So that's my assessment of the game. Let's see if you guys have any comments. That was an amazing game, though. Let's see what you guys have to say. I'm surprised there's so many of you here because it's late, but I guess a lot of you are probably on the West Coast or in the Mountain West, so maybe it's not as late for you guys. But Slip Ammo says, that's Phillip Rivers' career in a nutshell. And I think that is a perfect way to sum it up. It's a microcosm of his career. It really is. He does what he can, performs at an elite level, then the Chargers find a way to stink it up. Really kind of wish he went to New York or Pittsburgh. I think that's a perfect way to sum it up. I mean, this guy, for all that he does, his win-loss record, especially over the last 5 years or so, really doesn't reflect just how good he's been for this Chargers organization. I mean, this guy leaves it out on the field each and every week. This guy puts the team on his shoulders, even when it's not a good enough team for him to put on his shoulders. He does it anyway, gives them an opportunity, and they just always find a way to just fall short somehow. And usually, sometimes, as in a couple of cases where I can think of the Tennessee game for one, where he threw like 6 interceptions in that game, like 3 or 4 of them in the fourth quarter of that game. He'll do too much and it'll cost his team, but it's rare that that's the case. It's usually him doing all that he can to put his team on his back, and it's just not enough. It's just not enough, and that's a shame. But Anthony Hibbert says, Zeke is going to eat that defense alive the way Gordon feasted on Denver. If they can't stop the run better than they did tonight, it could be problematic for them next week. Absolutely. Because, like I said, early in that game especially, I thought Gordon had his way with this Broncos defense running the football. As an all-purpose back, I thought he was outstanding early in the game. They ratcheted up the defense, though, in the second half. And as the lead grew, the Chargers kind of got away from the run a little bit, and he wasn't as effective in the second half. But if they can have the kind of success and sustain it like the Chargers did early, then yes, Zeke could have a big week if he in fact plays. The NFL is doing all they can to ensure that he doesn't. I expect him to play, and that could be a hell of a matchup there. Carlos Garcia says, how good do you think the Chargers defense can be? I've said this a number of times. If they're healthy, they're a dangerous group. They've got talent on that side of the football. Bookends in Ingram and Boza to get after the quarterback, which you have to have. They got a big run-stuffing nose tackle in Mebane down there. Even though I thought the Broncos did a good job of running away from him. They went a lot of off tackle in this game. They didn't try to run up the middle too often. a great job of C.J. Anderson of bouncing things to the outside and getting away from the strength of this Chargers defense. But nonetheless, they've got guys up front. I like their linebackers, even though they're missing their best, arguably their best linebacker in Denzel Perriman. I like Jatavis Brown. I like some of the guys that they have out there. I even like Kyle Emanuel. I think he's a talented guy. I mean, even on that pass he gave up to Virgil Green on the seam route late in the ball game, he was right there. He just didn't look back for the football. So they've got talent. You know how I feel about the cornerback position with Hayward and Verrett. Verrett just has to stay healthy. The safeties, Jaleel Adai, and I'm starting to Trey Boston is starting to grow on me. He's physical. He's around the football. This defense can be better than what we saw tonight. And they created turnovers. And that's going to be huge for this defense because I think you can move the ball on this defense when Boza and Ingram aren't getting pressure on the quarterback. I think you can move the football on this defense. But if they can create turnovers and force field goals, I think they can be a really dangerous defense in the AFC. BE says everyone should get an extra win in the weekly picks because the Bucks versus Dolphins game got canceled due to Irma. It's not how that works, BE. You just don't get anything for that game. Let's see. I Break for Rapper says, do you think Anthony Lynn kept Rivers from being good in the first three quarters? Anthony Lynn wants to run the football. That's his MO. That's his background. He was a running backs coach. Coming up, that's what he is innately. He was a running back himself, if I'm not mistaken, in his collegiate days. And so he wants to run the football. He wants his team to be physical and tough, and he wants to establish an identity. And all of those things are nice, but when Phillip Rivers is your quarterback, that's your strength. And look, there's nothing wrong with remaining balanced. They need to be able to run the football with Melvin Gordon for this team to have success. But your bread and butter is 17. And sometimes you can see him getting away from that a little bit. And he'll learn. He's a first-year head coach. This was his first ever NFL regular season game. There's a learning curve for him. He's got to figure out what works, what doesn't. He's got to find that happy medium. And so I'm not going to criticize him for being a little heavy towards the run early in his football game and then turning Rivers loose late in the ball game once the momentum shifted. I feel like he's got to figure things out on his own. You hate to have to figure things out at the expense of wins. However, at the end of the day, he's got to figure things out, and he's got to do what he thinks is best for his football team. And if he thinks running the football 55% of the time and throwing it 45% of the time is best for his team, then so be it. But at the end of the day, he'll figure out that Phillip Rivers gives him the best opportunity to win, and you can still implement Melvin Gordon with Rivers having the football in his hands because he's a dynamic pass catcher out of the backfield. So he'll figure it out. But it was a little heavy on the run for about the first 2.5 quarters, if you ask me. But nonetheless, he'll figure it out. He's a first-year head coach. And it all happened so fast for him, too. So it's not like this guy went from, running backs coach to offensive coordinator for 4 years, and then, he's gotten a feel for play calling and he knows what he wants to do. It's a little bit different. And I know he's not calling the plays, okay? But it still is something that he's got to kind of get used to, and he's got to come up with an identity. And so I don't blame Anthony Lynn for that. Brian Moss says, what do you think about the new offensive scheme for the Broncos? I think everything revolves around your quarterback, Trevor Siemian. If this Broncos team is going to be successful, he's got to play well. I thought he played well tonight, sans for a couple of throws that he would probably like back, and some opportunities that he gave the Chargers to get back into this game. The throw that could have easily changed the tide in this game early, the potential pick six that was dropped. Those are plays that he's got to erase from his game. But all in all, I love Trevor Siemian. I love what he brings to the table. And I think if they can continue to run the football effectively and go play action fake off of that, they've got weapons. They've got E-Man Sand. They've got double eight, Demaryius Thomas. They've got tight ends now. I love the fact that Hireman's healthy and he's a guy that can run. You saw him make some plays in this game. Virgil Green is another guy that can stretch the field vertically as a tight end. Benny Fowler made his presence felt in this football game. They've got stuff in Denver. McKenzie, I think, eventually will see his way onto the field as an offensive threat because he proved that he can catch, even though he's a body catcher. He can catch the football and make plays and be dynamic. So there's a ton of weapons. I think this new offensive scheme is irrelevant. It all really boils down to how good can Trevor Siemian be, because I think they're going to be able to run the football a little bit. This is a physical front. I love Ronald Leary in that addition. I think Garrett Bowles is going to be just fine at left tackle. There are a couple of plays where he struggled in this game, but he's dealing with Bosa and Ingram. What rookie left tackle isn't going to struggle with the likes of those guys? He's going to get some work this year, being in the toughest division, I think, in all of football to deal with pass rushers. I think each team in that division has 2 pass rushers that can get after the quarterback. And so he's going to have to stand his ground, and he's going to learn. It may be the hard way sometimes, but I think they've got a physical group. Garcia up there looks good, and he was moving some bodies. I think they can run the football, and I think Siemian will be just fine. So I think this offensive scheme really boils down to the success of the quarterback position and Trevor Siemian being able to take care of the football, make the right decisions, and make some throws and get this team down the field. J_Rod37 says, as a Chargers fan, I noticed the team a different vibe in the second half compared to last year when they were down. They had fire in their eyes, and that wasn't there last season. So a little bit of a positive spin, half glass full approach there from J-Rod with this Chargers team in the second half. And so it's just all in how you perceive things, because I felt like they did a lot of these things last year. Last year was more about blown leads, though. They were ahead in games, and they couldn't hold on to those leads. This game, they were down big, and they rallied. But we've seen that from them in the past as well. But they're never going to quit with Phillip Rivers at quarterback. I can assure you of that. So we'll see what happens. Sean Mack says, I finished 12-3 in my weekly pick'ems. Hope that throne is nice and warm, bro. Yeah, that was an awesome week for you. Like I said, I struggled. I don't even know what I did. I'll have to go back and tally up the damage. I'll be lucky if I'm finished over 500, though. I'm probably being harsh on myself. I'm pretty sure I didn't do that bad, but I felt like I lost every game on Sunday. I mean, man, I lost the Raiders game. I lost the Bengals game. I lost the Redskins game. It just seemed like I was losing game after game after game. I lost the first game of the week, which is the New England game. It was tough, man. There were a lot of games in there that I just didn't see happen. Of course, I lost the Jacksonville game. There were a ton of games. So, in any event, let's see if we got any more comments. Yep, we do. Let's get to some more comments. I think I skipped over a bunch of them. Zach Jones says, do I bet on sports? The only type of betting that I really do is just teams to win, like football pools, things of that nature. I don't actually like bet over, under, and things of that nature. But I do, look at some of those things and kind of sniff them out. But no, I don't really bet on games necessarily. I'm more of I don't really give a damn if you cover the spread or not type of guy. I want to pick the right team. I want the team that I think is going to win. And that's basically how I go about it. BE says, West Coast is the best coast. So you say. Yet there is still an East Coast bias, and that is for a reason, BE. But Anthony Hibbert says, Los Angeles, California is in the house. Yeah, you guys are late hours over there, because I'm pretty sure a lot of my East Coast people are gone at this point, man. It's pretty late on this side of things, but nonetheless, I power forward. My man Flacco says, Marshawn Lynch didn't impress me like the media is trying to put out there. The Raiders aren't better than the Chiefs. Lynch was impressive for his first game back in over a year, but I still think it's the Chiefs' division to lose. That's just the way I feel. But the Raiders, they're showing me something, that much like I felt about the Chiefs going on the road and beating New England. Of course, the Raiders going on the road and beating Tennessee isn't as impressive as the Chiefs doing what they did on the road versus New England, but it still was an impressive road victory against a quality opponent in the Titans, team that won 9 games last year that everyone thinks is going to be really good this season. For them to go on the road, and what was probably the most impressive was the fact that defense was flying around and they stopped the run, which is the Tennessee Titans' bread and butter, and only allowed 16 points, which was something the Raiders would have gave up in the first half last year, let alone the entire game. So I think the Raiders are going to be a really good football team, but then again, I feel like this entire AFC West division is going to be really good, just like they were last year. So we'll see what happens. Nate's G says, was Hunter Henry in the game? I didn't see him at all. I think I might have seen him a couple of times. I don't remember him ever catching a pass in this game, but I thought I saw him out there running around. I could be wrong, but I thought he was out there in some capacity. So don't quote me on that, but I believe Hunter Henry was, in fact, on the football field. Sean Mack says, I was second team All-State. The NFL can't handle this, bro. You guys are hilarious. Let's see. I already tweeted how you did, bro. LOL. I didn't see the tweet. I saw you tweeted yesterday that I was 6-6. So if that is in fact correct, and I don't have any reason to doubt you, then I finished 9-6 because I won the final 3 games. I won the Sunday night game and the 2 Monday night games. So if I was 6-6 at the time when you told me, which was during Sunday night football, then I am 9-6 this week, which isn't bad, but that's below my standards, especially when there's a full slate of games like it was sans for the Buccaneers-Dolphins game. You got to win at least 10 games, and so that's not good enough, but it could have been a lot worse, that's for sure. And so, nonetheless, that looks like all the comments there that were addressed to me. And so, I appreciate you guys staying up late with me. It's a tough ask, especially it's 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time now. But what a game. I feel great for staying up to watch it. You know, I would have felt really bad waking up tomorrow morning knowing I missed a game that ended up being as epic as this one did. Would have been even better had this game went to overtime. I really think the Chargers would have won the game had it went to overtime just because they had all of the momentum. The Broncos were reeling. It felt like a championship fight with a fighter that won the first 5 or 6 rounds and then was just trying desperately to hold on late in the fight. And they were able to just hold off the fighter that was surging at the end, and they barely won the fight by about a round. And so that's what this felt like. The Broncos got out to a big lead, 24-7, seemingly having this game in control. Then a couple of turnovers, and voila, Phillip Rivers starts really firing darts all over the field. And next thing you know, this thing is within 3, and they've got an opportunity to steal this football game. So Chargers fall short. Great job of using your timeouts to ice a kicker and then go out and block the kick. And the Broncos preserve the victory 24-21 over the Los Angeles Chargers. That's going to do it for your man Louie Tee here on Monday Night Football Overtime. Week 1 of the National Football League in the books. It was a pretty good week overall. And so we'll chat it up. I'll talk about these games on Wednesday with my pick show winners and losers. We'll address picks there, and all the people that sent me their picks. We'll talk about their picks, my picks. And then we'll talk about next week's games and picks there as well. So I'll see you for that come Wednesday. If it happens in the National Football League, whether big or small, we cover it all here on the Louie Tee Network. I thank you guys for joining me this late. And once again, if you haven't already done so, subscribe to the Louie Tee Network for more great content in 2017 and beyond. We're changing the game one live feed at a time. I'm your man, Louie Tee, signing off. See you tomorrow. Have a good one.
check. Cold drink, check. New Jersey, check. Louie Tee Network, check. Okay, I'm ready, let's go. Yeah, I'm so happy football back, I'm headed home in a rush now. Yeah, I'm so hyped, I can see my defense rush now. Yeah, I got 20 wings that I'm about to bust down to make me put my 2 arms up. I'm hollering touchdown. We put in hard work, shit, I'm talking steel toes. Yeah, it's 4 for 3 on the 30 and I'm kicking field goals. It's good, that mean I play it safe, but yet I cause damage.